Why would I get a 0? I had all the information. She likes me because I don't disturb her class. I can put anything on this slide. I did. Look, I'm turning it in.
There's no sound. What is sound at?
Colby, you need to go ahead and mute yourself.
Who, me?
Yes.
No.
I'm just kidding. We're gonna try to remain lighthearted today. We'll see.
This is the first time I ever Zoomed before.
Well, hush your mouth and listen. This could spiral very quickly, so I am going to ask you that if you haven't, that you mute yourself. We will, I promise, ask for opinions later, but I don't want to hear them right now. And it's all coming from love, I promise.
Jump up.
I'm gonna wait until about 9:03 to let people keep joining. I appreciate that you are giving us your time this morning. Oh goodness.
Sonny, you really need to adjust your clock behind you. I expect better from state staff.
Honestly, that's so rude. And it doesn't work. So just like me. Welcome to the State Department. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get started to respect you guys' time. We have some announcements to make this morning. We have Mr. Backus who's going to fearlessly lead us through this next process. I hope that all of you at this point are not freaking out, because we are not freaking out. So I hope that brings peace to you. I also hope that your schools aren't panicking and spiraling out of control right now, but I can probably guarantee you that most of them are. At this time, we're going to talk through our contingency plans that we have put in place regarding our spring activities, and this is including our CDE events, our state FFA convention, and our leadership camps. So at this time, if you are on the call, if you will mute yourself so that there's no delay or echo, that would be phenomenal. Mr. Backus, whenever you're ready.
Sure. So thanks again for everyone for calling in. Just a few updates we have gotten from over the past couple of days. And one of the things that we're going to ask is that we will provide information as quickly as we can, but just know that things are changing very quickly on our end as well. So 2 days ago, we were given the directive from the governor for educational activities to continue as planned. And so that's been our main goal over the past week, is that we are going to continue as planned. So then yesterday afternoon, Secretary Key gave the directive that all extracurricular activities be postponed or suspended immediately. So that's where we sent out the information yesterday about district contest. Just know that we had been working with the universities, making sure that there were alternate plans going on. We had alternate locations set up for if we weren't able to go on to the campuses, but we were still able to have our contest. The universities were working tremendously well with us to make sure that those contests were going on regardless of everything that was happening. So when you see Dr. Humphrey at ASU, Dr. Moore, Dr. Berry at SAU, Dr. Killingsworth, and Dr. Rank at Arkansas Tech, make sure and thank them for trying to make things happen, because they spent a lot of time the last week trying to come up with alternate plans with us and making sure that those were still going to happen. Unfortunately, they have been postponed. So all we can assure you at this point is that our primary goal and our commitment to you is that opportunities are not going to be taken away from students. So we are still committed to making sure that our students are going to have a competitive event this year. We're still committed that we will have a state convention this year, and that summer, as we go into summer, that leadership development and leadership camps will happen. Now, having said that, it may not happen the way that we want it to, and it may not happen the way that we're comfortable with. And so that's what we're going to ask for your patience and your support as we rally together and make these opportunities happen for our students. So we'll kind of talk through some of the options, and just know that at this point, up to this point, we have at least 3 options prepared and running that we are making full plans on for every event. So we have options for career development events. We've got 3 options as we move forward that we are fully preparing. We had several conference calls yesterday with each of these options, trying to make sure that we are going to be prepared as we move forward, regardless of what decision is made. So the state, district and state career development events, one option is that we will just have one central location, that we will have a one-day CDE contest that would essentially be a state-only contest that would be open to anyone that had registered for district. And at that point, whoever was the winner would be our state winner, and then we would go through with the district placings from that one contest. Again, please don't think that we're saying this is what's going to happen. These are just options that we are working through and trying to work out the logistics for, to make sure that something could happen on this scale. At that point, we would rely heavily on you guys as teachers, our state CDE committee, to help rally together, make sure we have quality contests. I think we will have some support from the university staff that have been engaged and enjoy the contest. Some of them have said whatever happens, they want to be involved. And so I think we can make that work, but just know that that's one option we're working on. The other options revolve around somewhat of online career development events. And if you've been familiar, we've mentioned before about QBank, which is our friends Tyler and Lori Weehot in Texas have created a system where they are doing online career development events. And while I want to assure you that this is our last priority, but at the same time, we are having those conversations to see how that could work. If we get into June and travel is still restricted, that's a better option than not doing anything in our mind. So we are having those conversations. QBank allows us, basically it's synced with Judging Card. And so our scan sheets, even our own Arkansas land specific one, is in the system. We just got confirmation a while ago that it is in the system. They have capability, obviously, for multiple choice questions and ID, but there's also capability options for practicums. And so, for example, in vet science, they already have Dr. Mask, who was at Texas A&M that started the vet science contest nationally, has done a bunch of videos recording practicums. And so then there would be a series of multiple choice questions related to that, such as, what step was missed or what would be the next step. We could do similar things for mechanics practicums. And again, we are not saying this is our preference, but we're exploring the options and trying to figure out how that could work. Any placing classes, they have the capability to do placing classes with videos and pictures for those. So option 2 would be that we go to a district online qualifying contest and then just still do a state contest in person somewhere later in the year or first of the summer. Option 1 would be that we just have to go to online totally. If we get into the end of the school year and we see that moving into the summer that travel is still restricted, then we will go to an online completely CDE contest. If we have to use online testing at all or online competitive events at all, then we will set up 2 or 3 practice contests so that you are able to go through it and let your students get familiar with it and all of that. The QBank system does have a process in place for proctors. There's ethics signatures that can be signed. We won't get too far in depth into that because we hope we don't get there, but just know that if we do get into that, there's a system in place where there will be proctors and ethics signatures can be signed on that to help eliminate the concern that there would be cheating. So that's what we're doing with career development events. Just know that our commitment is that we will have career development events. Ms. Wise just got off the phone with the plaques, the people that we're getting the plaques from, and they were asking if we were canceling, if they needed to wait on making things, and we told them absolutely not, that we will have contests. So just assure that we are working on options, and we have scheduled an advisory committee to kind of further explore what those options could be and get further input from the advisory committee. In terms of state convention, our option one right now is that we are planning to have a state convention April 20th through the 22nd at the Hot Springs Convention Center. So that's what we are still moving forward with. Our state officers are still preparing for that. Ms. Wise is still preparing her stuff. Mr. Eichelberger is still preparing for leadership contest then. Mr. Draper is still preparing for agri-science fair. Obviously, if things happen out of our control and schools are not allowing students to travel at that time, that throws a big wrench into the plans. So we have started on 3 other options. So we have 4 options going for state convention right now. And I don't tell you these to scare you or to start the rumor mill or to cause hype, but I just want everyone to be aware that we are working on options. So the second option is that we have started the conversation with the convention center to look at alternate dates. They're supposed to be letting us know if there's anything in the summer that would work. If that happens, then we will have to start looking at decisions on if there's only 2 days available, we may have a 2-day convention. We would hope that we could still do an expo if all of the facilities are available. We would hope that we could still do leadership, but if not, then that throws another wrinkle in the plan of district leadership and state leadership that we will identify at that time what our option will be for that. But so that is one option that we would move later into the summer and do it at the Hot Springs Convention Center at that time. Option 3 is that we would have convention at camp in the summer as well, which would be somewhat of an abbreviated schedule. Obviously, we would not have the full-blown expo like we have. We would hope that we could still engage some industry partners and do something. At that point, we would probably be requesting that we look at just leadership contestants and official delegates would be what we would, our primary focus at that point would be making sure that those 2 groups and those events that were scheduled for those 2 groups carry on as planned. And so we would not be necessarily trying to build an event that could hold 3,000 people, obviously, and try to engage many students that are not competing or not official delegates. We would be focusing mainly on the opportunities that our competitors and our delegates would be participating in at that time. Option 4, and this is the one that is a little bit crazy, is that we would have a virtual state convention. And so if we get to a point where we see that travel is going to be limited and restricted through the summer, then we have to have a state convention because we have to carry on the business of our organization, primarily electing a new state officer team. And so if that happens and we see that we're going to have a virtual state convention, then we will obviously adjust the registration. It will be more of a chapter registration situation where a chapter could register. You would probably receive a convention in a box kit that would help support the activities that were going on. Our state officers would have pre-recorded retiring addresses, and we would deliver as much of the content that we could virtually on that same time frame before you're out of school. At that point, we would have the opportunity to create some additional resources, teacher guides, student guides that would go along with the retiring addresses, with some of the award pieces that you as teachers could help it would help you as you are dealing with alternative methods of instruction and your students that are not able to travel. We would still award all awards at that point. So we would create some videos to release or do live video releases of our major awards. Talent contests would still go on as planned. We would work with the 12 that were selected to ask for another video submitted if they, or give them the option to. We would put that together, and then we would have a live voting event for the talent. The business session, we've worked through with Tyler and Lori what that could look like, and how that could look in terms of security and ensuring the delegates that are registered and the ones that would be voting. We would still go through a nominating committee process virtually, because our Constitution and bylaws requires that every state officer candidate is assured an interview prior to convention, and then that our students will vote for those state officers. So we would still ensure that that would happen. It would just be a virtual live voting business session. So we hope that is our last option, or further down the list, but we just wanted you to know that we are working on, my staff is working diligently to go through every piece of this convention schedule and determining how it could be offered virtually if that was the choice, our only choice. And again, that is not our preferred method, but sometimes things happen that are out of our control. And so if your schools are saying that you can't travel, then we are not going to just cancel convention. We still want your students to be recognized for the work that they have done this year and have the opportunity to be engaged in leadership conference and that piece of it. So that's what we're talking about for state convention. Summer leadership conferences, option one is that everything goes on as planned. And so that's what we're still planning for. Option two is if there are still travel restrictions in place, that we will modify content delivery if we have to. And so Ms. Wise has some really good ideas about how that's going to look moving forward. It could include chapter officer training. That would be a conference in a box situation again, where you would be sent everything and the state officers would facilitate virtually that conference in a box. Chapter president's conference also could be delivered in a very similar method. So we're working through some of those things for leadership conference, but as of now, option one is we are still moving forward that we are going to have camp this summer. We've started getting questions about Washington Leadership Conference. As of now, we are still planning on taking a state group to Washington Leadership Conference. National FFA yesterday, there has been a 60-day window, cancellation window. That window has now been reduced to 30 days. And so they realize that this is an uncertain time. I've asked Mr. Jones this morning to reach out to National FFA and get some firm commitment dates on our end, in terms of if you have a student whose parent says, absolutely, they're not going, we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that that student does not have to pay for that conference. Now, having said that, we don't want everyone to panic right now and just pull out, because that could affect all of the other students. And if all of this is kind of neutralized and things are back to somewhat normal in June, we don't want students to regret and us have missed that opportunity. So what we're going to ask is that we are working on options for parents and students, but please ask them to wait until it gets closer to time to start backing out, until we really get a feel for what's going to happen and be happening in June. We will work on some final deadlines and all of that piece. If we do have half the group that wants to go and half the group that doesn't want to go, then we're talking through options for travel that would include not a charter bus, because that's a huge cost, and that's the reason why that cost did go up so high. We're also talking through, if we are not able to provide travel, but your student still wants to go, like they are registered right now. So if a parent and a student decide that they want to still travel and still kind of coordinate that trip, then what does that look like in terms of us returning just that extra money that we charge to cover the charter bus and the hotel? So we're working through all those options on WLC, and if you've got students that are attending, we'll be following up with you very soon on options for that, and just some peace of mind hopefully on that end of it. So our priority, as I wrap up, just our priority is that we are not going to take any opportunity away from a student. It may not look the way we want and that we're comfortable with, but we are committed to making sure that opportunities are still available for our students as we move forward. The other thing is that, and we met with our state officers last night to keep them in the loop of what's going on, and we reassured and shared the same message with them, is that our primary method of communication will be to you, the ag teacher. So as decisions are made, we will send it to you, the ag teacher, first, and then we will post it on social media. We know how it can spiral quickly when it gets out on social media, and so the last thing we want is for you to find out on social media first before you've seen it through listserv. Now, as things are moving quickly, that may not necessarily mean that we post it one day and the next day we post on social media, but we will try to always send out to listserv to the teacher first. And as we get questions, we've had parents calling us, we've had students that have been asking the state officers. Our consistent answer to parents and students will always be, have you talked to your local advisor? Because you know your students best, you know your school situation best in terms of travel restrictions or expectations. And so just know that our consistent answer, if it's a specific question about a chapter, or if any student asks us or asks the state officers, the answer is always going to be to talk to your ag teacher. So that's just our policy on that piece of it. One final thing is that we are, hopefully by the middle of next week, we are working on some 6-week modules that for each of the pathways, as well as an SAE for All and an Agri-Science Fair module that could be used if your school decides to turn out for the rest of the year. We hope that this doesn't happen, but we're just trying to think through how we can support you if that does happen. These modules are not AMI packets. They're not going to be worksheets that would be, you could pull and do 10 days worth. It's going to be a 6-week module that would hopefully have a substantial outcome with it. But it would be something that if your school says we're going online for the rest of the year, that you could hopefully use one of these resources or all 6 of them, depending on your kid, to have some kind of quality activity that student is doing that supports classroom instruction, SAE, and FFA leadership development. So that's the goal that we're working with on that. Is to create those modules, and hopefully by the end of next week we will have those ready before spring break and posted on our website. So be looking for that. At this point, I will be quiet and answer any questions that anybody has.
And I'll take this moment to say that if you feel like you don't know the whole part of it because you came in late, please know that once this is finished, I will upload it to YouTube just like I've done with the other Zooms, and I will send them to you via listserv so that you can start and maybe go back over some of that information if we went too quickly. But I think somebody unmuted for a question.
I did. This is Kate Shoulders. So this is kind of, can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. This is kind of halfway question for you all, but really more so for the teachers overall. So I'm sure, as you all know, the U of A does not have students on campus anymore. And so we are not allowed to ask students to travel with us through the end of the semester. And so that takes away all of my judges for the Agri-Science Fair, or 90% of the judges for the Agri-Science Fair. I'm hoping that we can still get some industry folks down there. But you know, their travel policies are likely going to prevent them from participating as well. So I'm going to ask if we have a convention in April as planned. My initial contingency plan is to ask that teachers that don't have students in the Agri-Science Fair participate as judges so that we can continue to offer the opportunity for the students, because the team that I bring, I cannot bring a team to help run the Agri-Science Fair. And I think I can run it with just Bart and myself, but we have no one to judge.
That's a very good point. And so that gets back to kind of us rallying together and making sure that opportunities exist for students. So I feel confident that we will have teachers that can do that, as well as we can rely heavily on Jennifer. We already talked to her a little bit about trying to find some industry partners as well to help with that. So we will make sure that students have judges to to compete. So that's a really good point, Dr. Shoulders. Thank you. Any other questions?
I think at this point, if we just remain optimistic as a group, and I think the ag teachers do an excellent job of pulling together and doing what needs to be done, not necessarily what you want to do. So please know that the rest of the semester is going to look different than it's ever looked, but I'm excited for it. Matt, do you have a question?
No, it's just a little bit of information out of Farm Bureau. As far as educational displays go, if you had, a cow or simulator or anything like that booked, we were given word yesterday that those are not to go to schools for at least the next 30 days. That's going to put us coming back right about convention if we're able to have it. But if you book something through Jason or myself in the next 30 days, it will not be coming to your school.
Okay, thank you.
And for the hundreds of texts that have blown up, this is not toilet paper in the background. This is paper that was cleaning my office, so I'm not a hoarder of toilet paper.
O'Shea, do you have a question?
I was just going to ask about WLC payment. Like, that's still due in a few weeks, but if we're not sure we're going to go, like, could we back that up so our kids don't have to pay for that if they're not sure if they're going to get to go or not? Or is that too much to ask?
No, so that's part of the guidance we'll give shortly. Once he finds out what our ultimate deadlines are from National FFA, I imagine that our deadline date for payment will back up as well until there's some certainty. So we will communicate that. That's a good point, though. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? We just want to remind again that things are changing day by day, hour by hour, and we will do our due diligence to make sure that each of you are informed and that you feel confident so that when your students ask, you can give them confident answers. So, Dr. Shoulders, do you have something?
Just wanted to say you guys are doing a fantastic job making sure that everybody stays up to date. And I think everyone's a little stressed and it's weird for everyone, but you all are doing an absolutely fantastic job. So thanks so much for your all's leadership.
Thank you. We appreciate that. I mean, I've just enjoyed seeing all of your faces through the videos. Carson White, if you'd look at him. And I know it's not very lighthearted, but I am trying to remain lighthearted so I do not spiral out of control, and I hope that you do the same. But if there's no more, Carson, do you have a question?
Everything's fine, Gary. There's no problem. Okay.
I seriously work for the best group of teachers in the world, so thank you all so much. At this time, we're not going to keep y'all too much longer, and know that if you do have questions, you literally can call the office, text, whatever you need to get that information, because we don't want y'all to feel like you're out of the loop or that you don't know what's going on. Because I can guarantee you, we may not know what's going on either, but we'll try to figure it out with you. Oh, look at Jerry's wiener. How cute. So much fun stuff. Okay, y'all have a great day. Enjoy your time. If you need anything, let us know. Y'all have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.